watching NotesIn9.
Hello, and welcome to NotesIn9. I'm David Leedy. Episode 88, using Google Maps in XPages. XPages marks the spot. Okay, there's some breaking news out of IBM yesterday. They're renaming Notes Domino, and it's now going to be called IBM Notes Domino 9 Social Edition. So they're going to drop the Lotus name, which I'm fine with. Who cares? Because in the webcast, I'm much more interested that they showed a 3-year roadmap for the product than dropping the name. So it's going to be IBM Notes Domino 9, and I'm really excited about that. One of the cool things about it is they're going to actually have a public beta coming, and this public beta is going to be available on December 14th. That's December 14th. That's 3 days before my birthday. So, thanks IBM. I appreciate that one. So they're going to have a Bitly URL here for Bitly ND9 beta, where you can go and register for the beta, and anybody can get their hands on it then and play with Designer, the Notes client, the server, etc. Now, at the day job, we have high hopes of basically getting this in to our production development environment fairly quickly and using a lot of the new features. I can't really talk about too many of the new features because I'm still under NDA, but that will be lifted on the 14th, and I would expect to see a lot of blog posts that day. So why Notes 9.0, Domino 9.0? Why change that? Well, it's kind of interesting because most of this is all based on the 8.5.x code stream. So it should be extremely stable, a lot more than a typical .0 release. So this is the skinny in this couple paragraphs from Ed Brill over at his website. So what I imagine happened is they sat around a table and they said, well, look at all these new features. You've got this Traveler Support in System I. You've got all these user interface enhancements for the mail and the embedded experience. You've got this great new Notes browser plugin, which is a way to get your existing client apps without modifying them at all and put them on, make them accessible via a browser, and you can even replicate and stuff, I believe. So that's really cool. So this is just too much to just call it 8.5.4. It really is 9.0. It's a major version. So I'm sure that they got around this table and they said, that's why we're going to do that. I'm sure that's what they want us to believe, but there could be another reason why they're calling it 9.0. So work with me on this one here. Just this past weekend, I announced on my little blog that NotesIn9 hit 150,000 total downloads of all these XPages shows by all these great contributors. 3 days later, IBM changes the name of the product to Notes 9. NotesIn9? Notes 9. Sounds a little similar. I think they're jumping on the bandwagon over here. But anyway, I'm of course just kidding about that, but not really. So anyway, let's get to the meat of the show. And I've got a great new contributor that I'm excited to have on. His name is Martin Meijer, and he's from the Netherlands, I believe. And I'm pretty sure was the very first Lotusphere idol. So he's a great community member. He has done a lot with OpenNTF. He works at a university, and I think he has his own business on the side. And I'm not going to do too much here because he's going to introduce himself, but there's his Twitter handle and his blog, and he's got some OpenNTF products, and he's going to come on and talk about one of these that he has to integrate XPages applications with Google Maps. So with that being said, let's go to Martin.
Hello there, my name is Martin Meijer, and I'd like to give you a short introduction about myself. First of all, I'm Dutch, and Dutch is my native language, and I hope my English is good enough for you to make myself understandable. I'm a developer since 1998. I'm working for Saxion University. Saxion is a university with 23,000 students and also 2,300 employees, and we have a lot of IBM products. Beside of that, I work for my own company that's called Yellow 2010. In the past, I was speaker on the NLUC, on the DNUC, and in 2010 I was elected on Lotusphere as the Lotusphere Idol. I'm a big fan of XPages and a big fan of OpenNTF. Below you can find my contact informations. Feel free to contact me if you have any question. First, I like to show you what the end result is of the custom control. So what I have here is a new database with only a custom control in it. Here's the Google Maps custom control and also a few images. So what I can do now is create a new X page. Let's call it demo. And now we can add the custom control to the X page. And when I save it now, by default, you will see a map of the area where I live. I had to do that to give you a starting point and make it easy for you to use the custom control. Now let's get a closer look to the custom control itself. What you can see is that we have custom properties. And if you look at the properties, you will find the map center address. In this case, it's the village Lonneke. And you also have a map center type, and in this case it's address. You can change this to coordinates, and in this case it will look to the latitude and longitude of the map center. What you also find is the map height and the map width. Let's set this one to 800 pixels. And you can see also the map zoom factor. You can find also the help. And you can see that the zoom factor is a required value. And it's a value between 0 and 18. Let's make this, for example, 7. I will save it and we will take another look. The next thing I like to show you is how you can add markers to the map. Let's go back to Domino Designer. Let's have a look at the marker properties. You can add markers here. And first I will add a marker on a specific address. So this is the center of the map, but my marker I like to show up on a specific address. And instead of having the default icon, I will give it a custom icon, and let's give it an animation. So let's have a look at the result. Now let's get back to Domino Designer. What I like to do is to zoom a little bit more and to add another marker. In this case I will do it on Oldenzaal. No animation, no specific icon, and we will have another marker. And we put that marker on Hengelo. We change the map type. It's now a road map, but I like to have satellite. Zoom a little bit more. Let's make it 14. And what I also like to do is create a circle. In the center of the circle I will put in also on Lonneke what is the center of the map. And the radius I can see is the radius in meters on the Earth's surface. So let's change that to 20,000. What they can also do is give it a color inside, the fill color. An easy color to remember is black. And give it an opacity of this value. And now let's change the zoom factor back to 10. And let's have a look. Now you can see the circle with the color inside of black, and the two markers, the default Google Maps markers and my custom marker. I hope you have an idea now of the capabilities of this custom control. If you like to build a custom control like this yourself, start with the documentation. You can find it here. I used the simple example, Hello World. Have a look at this piece of code. If you look at the code, you see a meta tag. I don't know what the use of that is, but we will find out. Then I see a style, a piece of script, another piece of script, and an onload event. I'm not sure what it is, but we will find out. So the first thing is the meta tag. I googled for that, and I came to Stack Overflow, and here's the explanation about the meta tag, what it does. And if you read it, you will find out that you won't need it. So we forget about the meta tag. The second thing that you see is a style. Now, how do we put that in a custom control? Let's go back to Domino Designer and let's create a new custom control. And let's call it my first Google Maps control. Let's go to the source. Now we're in the source. Let's copy over the piece of code. So I selected it here. Let's copy this, go back to Domino Designer and paste it in. Let's save it. No errors. So this must be okay. Let's go back to the example. The next thing we have to do is to import an external script library. You can find the URL here. Let's copy this. Go back to Domino Designer, go to your custom control and find the resources. You can add the JavaScript library here. We have to put in an external URL, so we can paste it here. What is interesting is the last part of the URL. You see here a parameter key and another parameter, it's called sensor. So let's find out what it means. Go back to the documentation, and the first thing is the API key. Here I found some information about the API key. You have to read it yourself if you need it or not, but it has something to do with limits. And from this example we don't need it, so I will delete this parameter of our URL. So we can delete, let's have a look, this piece, and that leaves us with the sensor parameter. If you look for the sensor parameter in the documentation, you will find out that this is a required parameter and it has something to do with the GPS locator. So let's go back to our URL and put in true. Now I cannot save it because this ampersand must go, and now our URL is in place. Now the next thing of the example is a function. It's this function. We will copy this and then go to the designer client, and we go to events, the onload event, and I have to make it a little bit bigger here. We go to the script editor, client-side script, and we paste in here our piece of code. Now we have to call this function also, so we can copy this part and paste it here, and now we can save this. The final part of our piece of code is this div tag, so we can copy this, go to the designer, and we paste it in here. We save it, and now let's have a look how it looks like. So we can create another XPage. We call it demo2. We go to our custom controls. We choose the control we just created. We save this and we preview it. And there it is. So the basics are done now. Let's go back to the source of a new custom control. Look at this part. I see parameters, and every time I see parameters, I'm thinking about custom properties in the custom control. So what we do now? Look at the parameter zoom. It has a value of 8. So what we can do now is look in the documentation what zoom can be. Here's the documentation. It tells us that zoom is a number between 0 and 18. So we will go back to our Domino Designer client. And what we can do now is add some custom properties to our custom control. So we create a new property and we give it a name. Let's say map underscore zoom. And we give it also the display name. And it's a number between 0 and 18. So let's make it an integer. And let's make the editor a combo box, and our default value will be 10, for example, and the parameters we give it are the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and finally 18. You can give it a help description here, but for now we leave it as it is. So what we can do now is go back to the source code of our custom control, go back to the zoom property, and instead of the value of 8 we put in this. It's a piece of JavaScript and it refers to composite data map.zoom. That is our custom property. So if we do it this way, we have the zoom factor configurable. So I will demo this to you. Let's go back to the demo 2 XPage. Here's my custom control. I will delete it and will add it again. And now you can see at the custom properties that I have the map zoom property. So if I set it to, for example, 12, I can preview this and I see that the map is zoomed in much more further than it was before. If I go back and set this to 7, you will notice that it's changed. So this is a way to make things configurable. I'm back in Domino Designer now, and what you can see is our custom control with the property definition of the map zoom. I will not annoy you with all the properties from the Google Maps API, but if you have a look at the original one, you will see that for map I created a lot of them. And what you also see is group properties. For the marker, for example, you can add a group because you have multiple markers, and the same for circles. You can add multiple circles on the map. So if you like to know more about this custom control, you can download it from OpenNTF. Last thing I like to show you is how you can see your custom control in the design mode on the XPage. I can imagine that you like to see for your Google Maps custom control a picture of the Google Maps logo. So what you can do is create a new XPage, call it temp, because we need it only temporary, and we can go to the core controls and add an image in there. In this case the Google Maps logo. Then we go to the source, we copy this, we delete the new XPage, go back to our custom control in the design definition and paste the code we copied in here. We save this, and when we create a new XPage, demo 3, and we are in the design mode, and we add our new custom control, you will see that the Google Maps logo will show up here. So that's an easy way to add some nice graphics to your custom control. Then there's something else I like to share with you. On OpenNTF there's a project called Import and Export for Designer. I think this is very important for you as a Domino developer. If you install this project, then you are capable of importing custom controls directly from OpenNTF into your own applications. Let me demonstrate it. If I create a new application in my Domino Designer client, and let's call it testing, I can right click on the application, and now I have this option. I can import reusable custom controls from OpenNTF. When I select, for example, my Google Maps custom control, I can import it, and if I wait a little bit, you will see that it's here in my application. And it's not only the custom control, it's also all related design elements. For example, we had a couple of images, and they are here also. So this is very, very powerful, I think. The other way around, if you have a custom control that you like to post to OpenNTF, you can create your project with this tool, and when you post it to OpenNTF, your control will also be available with this tool for other people.
And that's the demo. I thank Martin for coming on and helping out with the Drive to 99. I truly appreciate it, and I look forward to playing with his custom control and his other OpenNTF contributions, and hopefully seeing more from him in the future. So if you have any questions for me, here's my information, and I thank you for your time.